Brave of Kingdom is a game set in the Ignral Empire. It is a very popular action RPG hack-and-slash game where the route changes depending on the player's choices. Players can either start a rebellion against the Empire or grow strong enough to overpower every enemy in their path. However, there is one character who always stands in the player's way without fail. That character is the villainous General Zerog. Despite being only a mid-level boss, his overwhelming strength earned him the nickname Balance Breaker. He is a ruthless and cruel warlord destined to become the enemy of the hero Rio. The game is especially loved by our protagonist, an overworked office worker who only finds joy while playing it. After another exhausting day at work, he boots up the game to relieve some stress, but immediately notices something strange. The character on screen is someone he should not be able to control, Zerog himself. Confused, he wonders if it is a bug, but before he can react, everything suddenly goes black as if he is falling into an endless void. The scene then shifts to a medieval castle where someone is calling Zerog's name. That person tells him to wake up, reminding him that tomorrow is the deadline. At first, Zerog replies that he wants to sleep more, but then he asks what deadline they are talking about. Without answering directly, the eye-patched woman who wakes him informs him that the military council is about to start, and she again requests that he get up, addressing him as Zerog-sama. Zerog peeks out from under the blanket and after a brief pause asks where he is. Looking at his surroundings, he finds the place oddly familiar. More importantly, he notices that the beautiful woman beside him is someone he had seen countless times before. She looks exactly like the game character Selena Fenrir, the enemy army's female adjutant. As he looks more clearly, he is certain it is her from her facial features and revealing military uniform. Realizing what this could mean and refusing to accept it, he quickly gets up and holds the nearest mirror to his face. It is exactly what he feared. He has reincarnated as the villain of the game, the evil General Zerog. Realizing this, he looks at his body, which is completely different, and wonders what the hell is happening. Noticing his shocked reaction, Selena asks what is wrong, and he quickly composes himself, replying that it is nothing. Staying calm in unexpected situations is a survival skill he had learned as a corporate slave. More importantly, now that he looks clearly, Selena is indeed wearing a rather revealing outfit. As he stares at her while thinking this, Selena calls out his name. Snapping out of his daze, he notices her blushing and saying that if he keeps staring at her, even she will feel embarrassed. Realizing his mistake, he quickly looks away and profusely apologizes, saying it was very rude of him. As a corporate slave, he knows that staring at an employee's body like that counts as sexual harassment and is unacceptable. Moving on, judging by the situation, he is certain this is like the reincarnations he had seen in anime. He is surprised that something like this has actually happened, and although he is now fully aware of his reincarnation, he still has a hard time accepting it. Noticing his reaction, Selena comments that he does not look well and asks if he would like to rest. He replies affirmatively, knowing that if he appears before everyone in the state, his cover will be blown. He cannot afford that to happen, as it would cause chaos in this organization and delay its projects. Selena then uses communication magic to inform others that the War Council is cancelled since Zerog is not feeling well. Noticing this, Zerog wonders if she is using the telepathy magic that had been set up to coordinate during crises. From this alone, he realizes he needs to absorb this world's knowledge, but he also knows from his past as a corporate slave that one cannot survive long by breaking company rules. Zerog calls out to Selena and telling her that his memory is a bit fuzzy, asks where they are. Without questioning him, she explains that they are in the Ignral Empire's western frontier, the Fazralt region. The building they are currently in is a fortress that blocks invasions into the Empire. Due to its sturdiness, it is called the Fortress of Despair and serves as a shield for the Empire. Hearing this, he recalls that this fortress city, proud of its defenses and massive troop presence, is a stronghold in the game. However, it had been no less than hell for those stationed there. Any rebellion is instantly suppressed, and ringleaders are immediately executed, very similar to a black company. More importantly, the lord ruling this land is none other than Zerog himself. He then asks Selena what month it is, and she informs him it is May, though she also asks if he is truly okay. This information is crucial because the event where the hero Rio attacks and defeats Zerog occurs in November. That means he has 6 months left before being killed by the hero. As he thinks about how little time that is, his corporate slave mindset kicks in. He believes he must stay positive no matter how close the deadline is and eliminate panic to find a path to survival. Just then, a guard bursts into the room, reporting that an ash giant beast has appeared near the northern fortress. Selena is shocked and immediately asks about casualties, and the guard reports that several citizens are seriously injured. From what Zerog remembers, the ash giant beast is a common mid-sized monster that mainly appears in subjugation quests, though it is quite strong. Selena orders the guard to dispatch a squad, saying she will take command at the front, but Zerog stops her and says he will go himself. This shocks both the guard and Selena, who asks for confirmation, and Zerog replies firmly that he will handle it. He states that this is his duty as the Lord, so there should be no problem with him going. Selena nervously agrees but finds it strange, since Zerog usually orders others to handle such matters while he goes back to sleep. However, to the current Zerog, who once lived as a corporate slave, status and position do not matter. He believes those who can work should work without hesitation, otherwise they will not survive in a black company. Later, at the northern frontline of the fortress, the soldiers gather to face the monster, but the moment they see it, they realize they stand no chance against it. Zerog, who also arrives, agrees that it is enormous, and Selena points out that if it reaches the town, the damage will be catastrophic. Zerog knows he is the most qualified person for the task, yet he wonders if he can truly defeat this monster. The ash giant beast has thick armored skin, an iron-like skeleton, and the power to crush a human with a single step. For the Zerog in the game, it is not a particularly formidable enemy, but the key difference is that this is no longer a game. He is a former corporate slave holding a sword for the first time, let alone fighting a monster. As he is lost in thought, the ash giant roars and charges toward him. It immediately uses its special move, a stomping attack with its massive body. Zerog is still wondering how he is going to dodge when he realizes it is already too late. Right before the ash giant's foot comes crashing down, he wonders if this is how he is going to die. The stomp lands with a huge explosion and a cloud of dust, and Selena calls out to him in panic. However, the worry proves unnecessary. Zerog stands unharmed beneath the ash giant's massive foot. Even he is confused as he feels no pain. Although there is some impact, it feels no worse than a magazine falling from a rack on a commuter train. Though he feels nothing from the blow, the ash giant on the other hand seems to be in immense pain as it roars. Zerog questions this internally, wondering why it is acting hurt after stepping on someone without permission. More importantly, he realizes that although the ash giant looks terrifying, it is actually slow. Compared to someone like the balance breaker General Zerog, the ash giant is just a mob. With that thought, he raises his sword, points it toward the ash giant, and brings it down in a clean strike, easily cutting the monster in half. The creature falls, instantly defeated. The soldiers and Selena are left in shock, and Selena drops to the ground, unable to comprehend how it was slain in a single blow. Noticing that she has dropped her guard, Zerog warns her to be careful, saying it is still dangerous. However, it is already too late, and he quickly covers her with his body, blocking the ash giant's final attack. As he holds her in his arms, Selena is completely flustered. Zerog feels relieved that he made it in time, recalling that in the game an ash giant beast thrashes its tail wildly in its final moments. He asks Selena if she is okay, and she replies that she is, though she remains visibly shaken. Realizing how the situation might look, he awkwardly assures her that everything is fine. His nervousness comes from the mindset he had in his past life, where physical contact with a female employee during work could be considered harassment. Setting that aside, Selena cannot believe he risked his own body to protect her. Until recently, Zerog had treated people like disposable shields, but after today, she begins to think that was only a facade and that he truly cares about his subordinates. She takes his hand and declares that from now on she will follow him forever. Zerog is stunned by the declaration, and on top of that he finds Selena incredibly cute. Still, he reminds himself that romance with an employee is the ultimate taboo for a former corporate slave. To redirect the mood, he asks if she can return to the castle and prepare a hot pot and some wine, specifically the 16 Burgundy. Though she doesn't fully understand the 16 Burgundy, she accepts the task, prompting Zerog to let out a relieved sigh. Later that night at the castle, chefs cook the ash giant's meat in large pots while citizens wait with bowls in hand. Grills are also set up, and as people line up for stew, one person mentions hearing that Zerog hunted the beast himself, which another finds unbelievable. A man who receives a full bowl of stew wonders how the ash giant's meat will taste, but the moment he takes a bite, he finds it so delicious that tears fill his eyes. It is not just him, other citizens also find the meat tender and rich in flavor. They finish quickly and ask for seconds. Zerog works at the grill and, having expected this reaction, tells them they can eat as much as they want. He remembers that in the game, defeating magical beasts drops raw meat that enhances a soldier's stats. It only worked on low-level soldiers, so it had been an optional feature. In this world, however, if he repeatedly strengthens the country's soldiers this way, he believes he can reduce the chances of his future death. Selena, who is also eating, praises Zerog and says he is impressive. She asks if he hunted the monster on purpose to feed its meat to the citizens and strengthen them. Zerog confirms and offers her some wine, which she gladly accepts. When she takes her first sip, she is surprised by how perfectly the wine pairs with the meat. The taste is so good that she feels as if she is melting. Zerog is not surprised at all. The game features a cooking system where combining certain dishes with specific wines, especially the 16 Burgundy, raises a character's maximum ability values, and he is now simply applying that knowledge in real life. Zerog then tells her it is nothing special, and that he just happens to know a bit about which wine pairs well with which meat. Selena thinks this level of knowledge about enjoying magical beast cuisine is like that of a master chef. She says this is to be expected from Zerog, and even comments that he must be the reincarnation of a war god. In his mind, Zerog thinks it is more like the reincarnation of a corporate slave. Setting that aside, he tells her the wine is quite valuable and asks her to keep this information confidential. Selena agrees, but with a shy feminine expression she asks if this means it is a secret shared only between the two of them. In response, he averts his gaze and says it is a company secret. For a moment, he thought it was truly over for him, but then he realizes that living as the villainous general in this Musu-style game is not an impossible task. He resolves to crush the doomed root to pieces and survive. Later, Zerog relaxes in a hot bath and comments on how alive he feels, though he still has trouble processing his reincarnation. Thinking back on his corporate days, people used to call him an old man because of his dry personality, but now he has truly become one. His current body is incredibly muscular, covered in scars that hint at countless battles, and he wears a beard. This is the body of Zerog, a mid-boss who stands in the hero's path. He has only half a year before his canonical defeat, and to prevent that, he plans to gain the support of the people. At the same time, he knows that even if Zerog becomes benevolent, there is no guarantee the hero will spare this fortress. Worse, he wonders if, despite all his effort and struggle, the world might still follow the game's script. Just as he is thinking this, Selena enters the bathhouse wearing nothing but a towel. Startled, Zerog questions internally why she would enter while he is bathing. Then he assumes that the Zerog in the game must have done all sorts of things with Selena before he took control. Selena quickly reassures him by removing the towel slightly to show that she is wearing a bathing suit underneath. Zerog tries to calm himself and notices that she also looks embarrassed. To confirm his assumption, he asks whether he had ordered her to do this. She says no. Hearing that, he feels relieved that Zerog was not as terrible as he had feared. Selena then explains that she wanted to thank him for saving her earlier and only came to wash his back. Zerog is skeptical, suspecting she might have other intentions, but since she seems sincere, he accepts her offer while still wondering if this is truly okay. As she washes his back, Selena asks how it feels and tells him to let her know if there is any itchy spot. When she says this, his body reacts slightly as he notices a particular sensation on his back. Seeing his reaction, she asks if something is wrong and he replies that it is nothing. He has no idea what is going on, but the situation feels almost too good. Such treatment was unimaginable in his corporate slave days, and he wonders why she is being so kind to him. Meanwhile, Selena does not understand why, despite her blatant advances, Zerog remains calm and composed, not taking advantage of her at all. His behavior is completely different from the past, as back then he would have attacked her without hesitation. This makes her wonder what caused him to change so drastically and so suddenly. As she mutters that he has a broad and sturdy back, Zerog wonders what she just said. Setting that aside, he slightly turns around and tells her that although it feels amazing, he is tired today and they should stop here. However, just as he fully turns to face her, he realizes that Selena's chest is completely exposed and that she had been using it to wash his back. The sudden movement startles Selena and she becomes extremely embarrassed. She hurriedly apologizes and quickly runs out of the bathhouse. Zerog remains there, speechless, thinking he has just witnessed something really good. Later, although he still has trouble understanding what happened in the bathhouse, he decides to calm down for now and head to the toilet. While searching for it, he notices a certain room leaking a dark, ominous aura. The moment he senses it, he freezes in shock. He wants to believe it is impossible, yet the place radiates the exact same presence as the basement toilet in his former black company. That underground toilet had not even been acknowledged by the cleaning staff and had been abandoned for years. He had only used it when absolutely necessary, and the stench alone had nearly knocked him out. It is something he never wants to experience again, so he decides to deal with it immediately. However, he is certain that if he tries to clean it himself, he will end up sick. As he wonders what to do, he remembers something from this world that could help. In this world, there exists an ultimate cleaner, creatures that eat anything and everything, including waste, trash, and even corpses. With that in mind, he decides to look for them. A little later, he arrives at a nearby forest and uses magic to map the surrounding area. During his earlier fight with the Ash Giant, he had realized that if he concentrates his consciousness, he can activate abilities just like in the game. Similar to the map screen, he can now sense monster presence. Using that sense, he finally locates what he is looking for, slimes. Seeing them in real life, he finds them oddly cute. Since he needs to capture them without killing them, he recalls a method suitable for the weakest monsters. He widens his eyes and glares at the slimes, and they instantly freeze in place. It is an intimidation skill that immobilizes low-level monsters with nothing more than a glare. He casually picks one up, impressed by how convenient the skill is, and decides to gather more. Then he notices something strange. The monster markers on his mental map are no longer moving at all. He is shocked and wonders if this is also the effect of his intimidation skill and whether its range is really that wide. It turns out to be exactly the case. He spends some time walking through the forest, collecting the immobilized slimes one by one. Since Zerog was never a playable character, controlling him had never been an option in the game. Now that he has reincarnated as Zerog himself, he realizes just how broken this character truly is. Sometime later, back at the castle, the guards and chef stare in disbelief as slimes methodically clean the filthy restroom. The foul aura is gone, replaced by a surprisingly fresh environment. Zerog arrives at the scene and casually asks if it does not look much better now. A soldier hesitantly asks if this was his doing, and Zerog proudly confirms it. He explains that he simply caught some slimes and put them inside, though he had not expected them to work this well. Everyone is astonished that slimes can be used this way. While they admire the idea of monsters handling sanitation, one of them wonders why the slimes are not escaping. Zerog explains that he has bound them with his intimidation skill, so they cannot flee. The skill has 10 levels, and he used level 7 on them. Monsters affected at that level cannot even retreat if they want to and must remain where they are. Selena soon arrives and, after hearing the explanation, calls it magnificent work. She admits the fortress had long struggled with sanitation issues and that she had worried about it for years. The fact that he solved it in a single day feels to her exactly like something Zerog would do. She praises him openly and even gives a slight bow, conveying the gratitude of the women working in the fortress, all of whom are deeply thankful. Zerog is caught off guard by the wave of appreciation, but he does not show it. He simply turns and walks away, saying it was something that needed to be done, so there is no need to thank him. To him, this is proof that deadlines can be met with the right methods. He plans to use everything available to survive his fate, because, in his mind, that is the true corporate slave way. Meanwhile, somewhere in the mountains, the hero Rio stands atop the corpse of a dragon he has just slain. As he boasts that the dragon's subjugation was no challenge at all, the Saintess Alicia praises him, saying he performed magnificently, but her expression soon turns troubled. She points out that his fighting style is far too reckless, noting how he rushed in alone without waiting for her support magic, which is extremely dangerous, and she asks him to coordinate with her next time. Rio responds with a smug smile, stating that Alicia's support magic is weak anyway. The blunt remark shocks her. Though she quietly admits her skills are lacking, she still tries to insist on proper teamwork. Before she can finish, Rio cuts her off and declares that as long as he wields the holy sword Zegafin, no one can defeat him. At that moment, a messenger bird flies down to him. He assumes it is a message from the king and opens it, reading the contents aloud. The report concerns the villainous General Zerog of the Northern Fortress, which immediately catches Alicia's attention. Rio continues reading, describing Zerog as a cruel and wicked man who ravages both people and land. The letter also states that the Northern Fortress is a key foothold for any invasion into the Empire. Alicia hesitantly tries to speak, but before she can, the sage Schubert interrupts. He suggests that regardless of plans to conquer the Northern Fortress, they should wait a little longer. When Rio asks why, Schubert explains that General Zerog is a powerful opponent. Even if he is no match for the hero in the end, challenging him head-on without preparation is still foolish. Schubert then proposes sending Alicia to the Northern Fortress first. He believes she can approach them under the pretense of negotiating a ceasefire, infiltrate the fortress, and get close to Zerog. Once she does, she can use the self-sacrifice spell called Orpheus. Alicia is stunned. Rio recalls that Orpheus is a spell that consumes 99% of the caster's life force to inflict massive damage on the target. Seeing her shock, Schubert calmly adds that she would still retain 1% of her life force, so as long as they rescue her immediately after, she should survive. He coldly justifies the plan by saying that since she is useless in direct combat, she should at least contribute this much, otherwise she is nothing but a burden. Rio shows no objection and instead praises Schubert's idea, which the sage accepts with a nod, while Alicia remains speechless. Schubert continues, saying that since the start of their journey she has only held them back, and it is time she makes herself useful. He asks if she is willing to do this for the sake of their cause. Under pressure and unable to refuse, Alicia hesitantly agrees. Alicia was the daughter of an imperial noble. She had grown up in a loving home where she lacked nothing, and her family attended church regularly. However, tragedy struck one day when rioters seized the church. Their leader declared that anyone supporting the Holy Kingdom's church was a heretic who needed purification. The mob began killing indiscriminately. Amid the chaos, her parents were killed and she was taken hostage. Held by the hair as she cried for help, she watched in terror as no one stepped forward to save her. Then, in an instant, the rioters' leader's head was sliced clean off and sent flying. The one who did it was Zerog. At the time, he was an officer who stormed in and cut down the rioters with overwhelming strength, saving the remaining people. While the survivors stood frozen in shock and fear despite being rescued, only Alicia ran toward him. When she approached, the blood-stained officer gently patted her head with a rough but reassuring smile. After that, he simply walked away. It was later that Alicia learned the name of that lone officer, Zerog. Though he was on the path to success, his brutal nature earned him many enemies and his days were filled with constant conflict. Alicia sincerely wished to support him through it all. As the years passed, by the time she was 12, she earned the title of saint, recognized for her rare healing gifts and devout faith. Meanwhile, Zerog became widely feared as the villainous general, yet Alicia never paid the rumors any mind. To her, he was still the figure she admired from afar. She hoped that one day she might join the imperial army and serve under him directly. Unfortunately, the church ordered her to be dispatched to the Holy Kingdom as a devoted believer, a command she could not refuse. As a result, she eventually became a member of the Heroes Party and was forced onto the opposing side of Zerog. Though she is now ordered to work under Zerog's command as part of a mission, her true task is far darker. She is meant to use a suicidal spell against him. The forbidden spell, Orpheus, converts her life force into a massive explosion capable of inflicting a fatal wound on its target. She is assigned to use it on Zerog, and refusal is not an option because the holy sword Zegafin, wielded by the hero Rio, possesses the power to bind and control human will. Any contract formed under the sword's authority is absolute and cannot be defied. Upon finally arriving before the northern fortress, Alicia believes this cruel twist of fate is a punishment bestowed upon her by the gods. Meanwhile, Zerog sits in his office reading through stacks of books, trying to gather information that might help him avoid a doomed future. Certain knowledge is essential in this world, and he believes understanding it could be the key to survival. He focuses on identifying where the boundaries lie between what follows the game's logic and what differs from it. According to the texts, peerless individuals like Zerog are born with great strength and are conscripted by the state from early childhood. However, some powerful individuals go unnoticed and end up as bandits instead, a detail he never encountered in the game. From this, he becomes certain that this world is not completely identical to the one he remembers. Selena enters the room to inform him that someone has come to see him, describing the visitor as a nun. Slightly confused, Zerog first asks whether the visitor is a healer. When Selena seems unfamiliar with the term, he explains that a healer is someone who uses healing magic. Upon hearing that, Selena confidently states that such a role is unnecessary in their army. Zerog mentally agrees, since in the game healers held low status, which fits a Musu-style world where overwhelming strength overshadows support roles. Still, he remembers that healers had other strategic uses in certain scenarios. Without dwelling on it, he tells Selena to escort the visitor to the guest room, and she accepts. As Selena leads him there, he senses a hint of irritation in her mood and briefly wonders what caused it. When he enters the guest room, he sees the visitor and immediately recognizes her as Alicia. The name slips from his mouth on instinct. The moment he says it, he realizes his mistake because Zerog is not supposed to know her yet. Selena confirms that the young woman's name is indeed Alicia. Alicia politely greets Zerog, introduces herself, and asks if she may work here for a while. She is actually surprised that he knows her name since they only met once when she was a child. She assumes it must be a coincidence as there is no reason he would remember her. The current Zerog, however, remembers nothing about their past meeting. His surprise comes from a different source. He recognizes her from the game. From what he recalls, Alicia joins the hero Rio in the early stages of the story. As the party grows stronger, she struggles to keep up and is labeled a useless healer. Remembering that, he can roughly guess why she has appeared here now. He assumes she was deemed unfit by the hero and must have been expelled from the party. This kind of scenario, where a dismissed ally joins the enemy, had been a common trope in games. However, he finds himself extremely fortunate as he knows the full extent of her true usefulness. Thus, he thanks her for coming, which surprises Alicia. He then tells her that he wants her to join his side and work hard. The proposal shocks her and she quickly bows, thanking him and saying she looks forward to working with him. Zerog is glad that such a valuable character has come to him by sheer luck, but he can tell that Selena is not entirely pleased. Remembering lessons from his corporate life, he decides to handle the situation carefully and calls Selena's name. He asks her to quickly sort out the employment conditions and prepare the contract, admitting that he is not good at paperwork. Selena's mood brightens instantly as she accepts the task with enthusiasm. In his previous life, he had learned that employees who do not get along are often better off assigned separate responsibilities. Once the arrangements are underway, Alicia inquires about the kind of work she will be doing. Zerog tells her to follow him and that she will understand soon enough. Following him, Alicia arrives at the soldiers' training ground, where many soldiers are sparring intensely. She is visibly surprised by the sight and wonders aloud what exactly is happening. Zerog explains that this is the soldiers' training ground, where they train rigorously using iron swords rather than wooden ones. After being pushed to their physical limits, they are fed generous portions of beast meat to recover their stamina, allowing them to spar again. This cycle is how the fortress's army strengthens itself. Alicia finds it incredible, admitting she had not expected such proper training after hearing rumors that Zerog treated soldiers like disposable pawns. Hearing this, Zerog is genuinely taken aback and asks if he is truly spoken of in such a manner. Realizing she may have overstepped, Alicia quickly apologizes, bowing for speaking out of turn and expressing her regret once more. Zerog tells her it is fine. After all, he is known as a villainous general and he understands what she meant. He then asks whether she believes training ordinary soldiers is pointless. After a brief hesitation, she quietly affirms. Zerog knows that perspective all too well. In hack-and-slash games, soldiers are mere fodder. Even 100 of them would be sent flying by a single strike from someone like him. From the books he has been reading, he has learned that the circulation of magic within the body determines strength. That is how levels are measured. By focusing on others, he can perceive their levels. Selena is level 30, Alicia is level 18, and he himself is level 37. He admits that he understands weaklings cannot easily become strong. Even so, he refuses to believe that such a rule is absolute. There must be exceptions. His statement clearly surprises Alicia. To him, the logic that the weak must always remain weak is merely a convenient facade. Training soldiers is not pointless, it is essential. Right now, strengthening the army is a task that must be done. Alicia is deeply surprised by Zerog's conviction that the weak can grow stronger, as it stands in complete contrast to hero Rio, who favors the strong and readily discards the weak. Moving on, Zerog tells Alicia that she will begin working immediately. When she asks what she must do, he explains that it is a task only she can perform as a healer, something he himself cannot do, which is to heal others. Without hesitation, Alicia walks toward the exhausted soldiers and stops one who is about to continue sparring. She tells him not to move any further, then gently casts healing magic upon him. A warm light envelops his body, and in an instant he stands upright again, his stamina fully restored and his fatigue gone. Not only that, he feels even lighter than before, as if his body has been refreshed from within. The surrounding soldiers stare in disbelief, some even whispering that it must be a miracle. Since there are natural limits to how much training can be done in a single day due to exhaustion, Zerog has planned for Alicia to restore the soldiers' stamina repeatedly, drastically increasing both the intensity and duration of their training, allowing their levels to rise far more efficiently. At the same time, by using her magic continuously, Alicia's own level will increase as well. In other words, it forms a perfect cycle. The soldiers exhaust themselves, Alicia heals them, they resume training, and the process repeats. Impressed by the rapid recovery, other soldiers begin requesting her healing magic as well. Zerog once again finds himself appreciating Brave of Kingdom as a masterpiece. Its systems contain remarkable depth and allow for various playstyles beyond simple brute force. As more soldiers gather, Alicia decides to cast a more powerful spell. She performs an area-wide full-body recovery, bathing the entire training ground in radiant light. Every soldier within range feels their fatigue vanish at once. Cheers erupt immediately, and voices begin chanting her name in gratitude. For the first time, Alicia feels a sense of fulfillment. Rather than being dismissed or viewed as a burden, she is needed. Zerog notices the gentle expression on her face and is glad to see her genuinely happy. He understands all too well that when everyone else is busy and one person is left with nothing meaningful to do, sadness inevitably follows. In his past corporate life, he had observed that even employees who initially struggled could thrive when given tasks suited to their abilities, even if they had been reassigned under pressure. When a person is allowed to contribute properly, both the individual and the organization benefit. That, in his mind, is the way of the corporate slave: maximize efficiency while maintaining morale. Watching the soldiers resume their intensified training with renewed vigor and Alicia continue healing without hesitation, Zerog begins to wonder whether he should push his strategies even further and prepare for a future conquest on his own terms. Later, the soldiers' training ends for the day, and thanks to the healing magic, they have worked up a good sweat. Even though their bodies are sore, they feel great and are even looking forward to tomorrow's training. One of the soldiers then thanks Alicia for the healing magic and adds that he will rely on it tomorrow as well. This confuses her, as she wonders how a regular soldier can have that much stamina, but then she realizes and becomes certain this is due to Zerog's skill. One of the soldiers then mentions hearing rumors of Zerog being cruel and tyrannical and points out how far from reality that is. He is the total opposite. With a gentle personality, he is admired by his soldiers and invigorates the army with unique training methods. Above all, the soldiers find the most shocking thing to be that Zerog remembers each and every soldier, which proves that he truly cares. Because when one becomes a general, it is normal not to recognize the soldiers. But the soldiers believe Zerog has not changed a bit since his officer days and has remained the magnificent warrior who is stronger and kinder than anyone else. Hearing all this, Alicia wonders if maybe Zerog truly remembers her as well. Just as she is thinking that, her eyes go blank and her body freezes. She then falls to the ground, which causes all the soldiers to ask her and worry what is wrong and if she is okay. She snaps out of it and calmly replies that she is fine and just a bit tired. Just as she says this, she hears a voice saying it is good and that she is blending in quite well. Though shocked at first, Alicia quickly realizes it is Hero Rio's voice. Informing her that he and Schubert have also made it close to the fortress, he tells her that she can self-destruct anytime. Though this does not come as a surprise to her, she now fully realizes that Rio no longer thinks of her even as a comrade. Rio then reminds her that she cannot betray him and asks if she understands what he means. After a brief pause, she replies in acceptance and recalls a similar situation from before. There had been a party member they were separated from for just a week, but in that short period, Rio had completely forgotten about her. This makes Alicia believe that perhaps she too will be forgotten soon. Just as she is thinking that, Zerog suddenly picks her up, startling her. He then asks if she is okay while she is too flustered to respond. After that brief pause, she quickly replies that she is fine and requests him not to worry about her. But Zerog says he cannot accept that and apologizes to her, as he will be taking her to the infirmary. He states that managing the health of subordinates is a part of the job, and though she does not want to, he requests that she endure it. As she meekly says she does not dislike that, she breaks into tears, wondering what kind of saintess she is to deceive such good people just because of a mission and betray their trust like this. She finds this laughable for someone called a messenger of God and believes that in the end she cannot do anything on her own, as she is just a mere weak human. Later, Selena, with a grumpy look, asks Zerog if he is not being too trusting toward Alicia. Taken aback, he asks if that is really the case and whether it is not normal, to which she replies that she does not know. Seeing her reaction, Zerog wonders if Selena saw him carrying Alicia. She then points out that, for someone whose background is unknown, letting her participate in the training is risky. But before she can finish her sentence, Zerog, with a smile, asks if she is just worried about him and thanks her for it. This makes her flustered, as she says it is only natural for her to worry. Moving on, Zerog had thought only Alicia and Selena's compatibility was poor, but now he realizes it is quite deep-rooted, so he cannot leave it like this, recalling that during his corporate slave days, 2 hires who did not get along were assigned to the same department. Because of this, when the atmosphere at the workplace became the worst, he had been really troubled. Thus, before it affects his work, Zerog decides to quickly take action. He then tells Selena to get ready, as he has an important job for her, to which she asks what job he is talking about. He replies, informing her that it is a hot pot party and that all the soldiers will be there to see them cook. Later, even though this is an order from Zerog, Selena wonders why she has to do this. Alicia points out that it is no use complaining and suggests they divide the work and get it done. Meanwhile, the soldiers watching them ask Zerog if those two are going to be okay, as the mood seems quite intense. However, this is the plan he had in mind, as a way to make those who do not get along cooperate through shared work. He once had to gather employees just for that and did a barbecue by the river. Alicia then points out that she has never cooked anything before, to which Selena says it will be fine. With that, Selena decides to cut the vegetables while Alicia decides to cut the meat and watch over the heat. She also prepares the hot pot and thanks Selena for the cooperation, to which she replies it is not all that bad and that she will help with the cooking for now. Watching them cooperate, the soldiers feel relieved until Alicia starts cutting the meat. Much to their frustration, she cuts the meat too roughly and carelessly. Then another soldier points out that Selena's knife skills are impressive in the way she keeps cutting the vegetables. However, when they look closely, they realize that just because she is fast does not mean she is any good, as the vegetables are scattering everywhere. Not only that, it looks like the vegetables are cut unevenly, which the soldiers find to be such a waste of fine ingredients. The soldiers call the 2 of them terrible cooks, as from what they have seen so far, there is no way the meat they are cooking is cooked through, and they have also added far too much seasoning. Since if this continues, their dinner will be ruined, the soldiers plead with Zerog to do something. Zerog believes the soldiers' anger is justified, but his own anger is even greater. In his dream of changing his job from the Black Company, he had gone as far as to get a professional chef's license. Now, as someone who understands cooking, seeing this terrible disaster leaves him no way to sit back and tolerate it. Thus, he snaps and enters the kitchen, telling them to stop as he will do it. Shocked, Selena asks why he is here, and he tells them to be quiet and explains that when using a knife to cut vegetables, they should shape their hand like a cat's paw and chop in rhythm. With that explanation, he demonstrates how they should cut and starts chopping the vegetables. Selena is shocked by his knife technique and how beautifully the vegetables are cut. He then moves on to the heat, loudly explaining that even a beginner using high heat will just burn the ingredients, and asks Alicia if she understands, which startles her as she replies affirmatively. The soldiers are truly surprised and impressed as the ingredients that had been turned to trash are somehow saved right before their eyes. Setting that aside, since they are not good at cooking at all, he has to change his plan and instead will have them assist him in collaborative work. This strategy is always flexible, which is the way of the corporate slave. Later at night, after the hot pot party has ended, everyone is sleeping except one person. That person is Alicia, who is walking through the corridor alone when she should be sleeping. Just then, she collapses onto her knees again, this time heavily panting. Selena then appears out of nowhere and asks her where she is going, as there is no restroom the way she is heading. She also asks if Alicia is going to an evening tea party and then, with a stern face, asks whether Alicia is looking for Zerog for something. Being caught, Alicia stays silent for a moment, and as she replies that she will not hide anything from now on, smoke starts coming out. With the smoke surrounding them, Alicia reveals that she is a square assassin sent by hero Rio. Shocked by this revelation, Selena quickly tries to react, but she cannot and falls to her knees. Not only that, she feels intense drowsiness and wonders what is going on. Alicia then reveals that she is not limited to just healing magic, as she is using a spell called Sleeping Forest. She explains that saintesses are well versed in all auxiliary magic and Sleeping Forest is one of them. Just by touching the white smoke, the effect of sleep induction will activate, which should put her to sleep. But before Alicia can finish her sentence, she notices that Selena has stabbed her own leg and regained her sharpness. Shocked, she wonders if Selena has cancelled the Sleeping Forest effect by stabbing herself. Just as she is thinking it, Selena instantly closes the distance between them and strikes her. However, Alicia still has something up her sleeve as she uses a magical shield to effortlessly block the attack, much to Selena's shock. Since casting a defense barrier takes a long time, Selena realizes that Alicia had predicted she would break her spell. Just as she is thinking this, Selena again falls to the ground, completely immobilized, which confuses her as she wonders if there was another debuff. If so, how could she fall so easily? Alicia then explains that she anticipated being interrupted by Selena, so she had cast a spell during the day to increase the debuff success rate. Shocked upon learning all this, Selena realizes that Alicia is no ordinary healer and is instead strong. She then asks Alicia why she is doing this, as there is no reason to be hostile towards Zerog. Just as Alicia is replying that the reason is because she is weak, the ground begins shaking violently, shocking them both. But even more shocked than them are the guards, who are about to see the reason behind the earthquake. That reason turns out to be a giant dragon that has suddenly attacked the castle. The masterminds behind all this are hero Rio and the sage Schubert as they watch the scene from afar. It turns out that the dragon was actually defeated by them first, and after binding it with the Holy Sword's contract, it was sent to attack the fortress. This was all Schubert's idea, and Rio admits this to be a good one. Schubert came up with this plan due to his lack of trust in Alicia's ability to pull the mission off. Ignoring the soldiers, the dragon starts attacking the fortress. Seeing it, Alicia is shocked, as this is the very same dragon that Rio had defeated. Although it is dead, if it is being controlled by the power of the Holy Sword, it means it has power equal to Rio. With that much power, Alicia believes the fortress forces will not be able to hold it back, and even Zerog would be unable to do anything. But more importantly, this sudden inclusion of the dragon in the mission makes Alicia realize they never believed in her from the start. Just then, Selena gets back up again, saying she will sit this one out as the highlights are just about to begin, confusing Alicia. The soldiers, terrified of being crushed by the dragon, quickly start retreating back to the castle. Then suddenly something at incredible speed shoots out from the castle to the dragon's stomach, causing it to crash down onto the ground. This shocks Alicia and all the nearby soldiers as they wonder what the hell just happened. It turns out the thing that was shot at the dragon is none other than Zerog himself, wearing his night clothes and holding a plush bear in his arm. He then snaps loudly, asking who the hell is stealing sleep from the corporate slave. A few moments earlier, Zerog had been in deep sleep, holding his plush bear and dreaming about eating. But then he had been woken up by the ground shaking. Believing it to be an earthquake, he had quickly gone under the bed, yelling for emergency evacuation. But then he recalls that he is an invincible character and no earthquake can do anything to him. More importantly, he quickly gets out from under the bed, realizing that the shaking is not an earthquake. He then opens the window, and just as he is thinking the shaking seems like something huge nearby is rampaging, he sees what is causing it. It is the dragon, but instead of being shocked upon seeing it, he is more enraged when he notices that the important soldiers he was training are being chased and crushed by the dragon. Thus, he jumps out of the window, saying he will not forgive this damn lizard. Then, as the soldiers run toward him to enter the fortress, they notice him and request that he escape. But instead of escaping, he launches himself at the dragon while telling it to hold tight. Then after getting close, he punches the dragon's stomach, causing it to crash down to the ground. Standing atop the dragon's chest, Zerog tells the dragon that he had raised the soldiers with great care and made the town livable, and now the dragon has ruined it all. With that, he angrily asks it if it has any idea what it is responsible for. Just as he says that, a magical sphere appears before the dragon's mouth as it opens it. Only now does Zerog realize it is a red dragon and recalls its special move. However, it is too late as the dragon breathes fire at him. This shocks everyone as Zerog is sent flying by the sudden fire attack. As he crashes onto the ground, the soldiers worriedly call out to him. However, the fire does not manage to do much damage to him, as he gets right back up and asks the dragon if it has just underestimated him. He even asks if the dragon is too lazy to think as it breathes fire at him again. However, he easily counters, ripping off his burned shirt and using it as a fan to disperse the flames. This causes a shockwave, which stuns the nearby knights as they see the flames blown out before they even hit the ground. Though the dragon does not have many facial features for expression, the way its jaw hangs makes Zerog ask if it cannot believe what just happened. Zerog does not blame the dragon for underestimating him, as to it he is just a level 37 weakling. In the game, levels and health are visible to enemies as well, due to which weaker characters tend to get targeted more easily. But as Zerog is right now, he possesses strength far beyond his current level. While training the soldiers, he was also gathering Fruit of Disorder, an item that permanently increases status. Hunting monsters that drop these is standard practice for completionist-style grinding, so he decides to do the same. But when he explains the situation to Selena, she comes up with an idea. That idea is to add hunting and collecting the fruit as a training method for the soldiers. Since it is a good idea, he adds it to the training, and the soldiers, for some reason, eagerly join as well. As a result, he ends up collecting the rare item to the point that he can eat them like snacks. Thanks to that, his stats increase dramatically, and although his stat display shows his level to be 37, his real strength is far beyond that. Realizing that strength, the dragon becomes so terrified that it starts running away. But before it can escape, Zerog grabs the dragon's tail and asks if it thinks he is going to let it go. In response, the dragon starts screaming while Zerog says that the thing he hates most in this world is when he builds something layer by layer only for some stranger to interrupt and completely mess everything up. He also mentions that he is from a farming household, so he has no hesitation in killing pests. Just as he is saying that, he notices the red dragon's body is shaking violently. This phenomenon is a precursor to a special attack that is unleashed when its stamina exceeds a certain level. From this, Zerog quickly realizes the dragon is using its berserk technique Last Breath. It is an ultra-powerful heat ray that a red dragon unleashes right before it dies. If someone gets hit by it, they will not get off lightly, but even more importantly, there is a residential area in the fortress. So there is no way he can dodge it or take it head-on, making this one of the situations where he is supposed to be finished. However, he then recalls that this technique has a very simple countermeasure: punch its head to change the direction. He does exactly that, causing the dragon to release the flame breath in a different direction. But in that very same direction is a cliff where Schubert and Rio are standing, both of whom get covered in the violent flames. Then, as the flame breath finishes releasing, there seems to be nothing left on the cliff, indicating that maybe Rio and Schubert have died. This could be the case, as it seems like the contract binding the dead dragon to Schubert and Rio is gone, causing the dragon's body to collapse without any further fighting. While Selena had expected Zerog's victory, Alicia and the soldiers are extremely shocked witnessing the whole fight and its conclusion. After a brief moment of silence, cheers burst out as the soldiers declare Zerog the winner. All the fear and panic vanish in an instant, as they are so impressed that Zerog defeated the dragon with his bare hands. Not only that, this makes their loyalty toward him even stronger. They then pick him up and perform a celebratory toss while he just recalls that from the forest where the dragon's breath was diverted, he feels like he heard a scream, but then dismisses it as his imagination. Later, after taking care of the aftermath of the dragon's attack, Zerog decides to take a shower before going back to sleep. He finds showering right after fighting a dragon and working hard feels incredibly refreshing. Though the barracks are still in tatters, he is glad that Selena has temporarily welcomed the soldiers into the fortress. Just as he is thinking that they will clean up the mess tomorrow, someone enters the bath and calls out to him, and that person is none other than Alice, who is wearing nothing but a towel that barely covers her, catching him completely off guard. As he wonders what she is doing there, Alicia, with a flustered expression, calls out to him again, and after a brief pause, she tells him that she is here to apologize, which shocks him even more. Extremely confused and flustered by the situation, he wonders what on earth she is talking about and what her being here has to do with anything. Alice then explains that she is Hero Rio's companion and was sent to this fortress with a strategy to defeat him, and upon hearing this, he quickly grasps the situation and asks if it is self-destruct magic, shocking Alicia, who confirms it. With this confirmation, he recalls that in the game, making a contract with companions can activate various effects, and the tool for that contract is Hero Ryo's weapon, the Holy Sword Zegafin. It is a quintessential heroic weapon that increases attack power by gathering allies, but there is also a hidden way to use it, which is to bind allies through a contract that allows its user to issue cruel commands. In the game, this was the type of event where a choice appeared only when certain conditions were met, and though there was the downside of losing comrades, many players thought of it as a quite favorable strategy, the prime example being Alicia's suicide attack, which if successful could take Zerog down without a fight. Alicia then informs him that she cannot go against Hero Ryo because of the contract, and since she is going to die anyway, she wants to dedicate everything to Zerog before she dies. As she says this, she drops the towel completely, exposing herself, which shocks Zerog, while she adds that she will do it if he is okay with it, revealing that she has no experience at all and is completely clueless about how to proceed. Yet she is determined to do her best in her own way and asks for his permission. As she finishes speaking, Zerog gently places both his hands on her shoulders and tells her that it is okay, assuring her that everything will be fine and that she does not need to do that. Hearing this, with tears overflowing from her eyes, she asks how they are supposed to find a way, and in response, Zerog internally admits that the power of one of the 12 legendary weapons, like the Holy Zegafin, cannot be matched by any ordinary magic or skills, making the contract seemingly unremovable. However, if he were to possess a power equal to a legendary weapon, then that would be an entirely different story. With that, the two of them leave the bathhouse, and after getting dressed, Zerog tells Alice to follow him, saying he will show her something important. Following him, they enter his room, where standing in front of the many weapons on the wall, Zerog explains that just like Hero Ryo, he possesses one of the 12 legendary weapons, and that weapon is a double axe called the Omega Eater, a legendary axe said to devour all power with nothing it cannot sever, not even the binding force of a holy sword. Surprised upon learning this, she asks if the curse placed upon her can truly be broken by the axe, and with confidence he tells her to trust him, assuring her that it will be undone very quickly. With that said, he uses his ability to take a look at the curse, which appears as an iron chain binding her entire body. And seeing this, he wonders if the ability to perceive the curse so clearly is the power of the Omega Eater. With a clear understanding of the curse, he raises the axe and asks Alice if she is ready. And though nervous, she replies that she is, adding that even if she is killed in the process, she would be content if it is by his hand. Zerog then takes a deep breath and, calling forth the spirits, he focuses his power on the axe before slashing at the chains, and it actually works as it cuts only through the chain, leaving her completely unharmed, though she does fall as the chain breaks. He then explains that he saw the chains break, so she should now be completely free of the contract, and Alice is utterly shocked upon hearing this, and after a brief moment of speechlessness, she looks over her body to confirm it. While she does that, Zerog sits on the bed, exhausted, realizing that consuming the Holy Sword's power places a great burden on him, and internally he asks the Omega Eater if it is satisfied, noticing that it appears even shinier now. Suddenly, Alice jumps at him and hugs him with tearful eyes, realizing that the contract is truly gone, and she profusely thanks him, believing that Zerog is the true hero sent by the gods from the very beginning. Her sudden leap completely catches him off guard, making him wonder whether he cannot resist because he has used up all his strength or if she is simply too strong. And although the sensation is not unpleasant, she is holding onto his neck too tightly, making him wonder if this is how he is going to die. Just as he is thinking this, his eyes widen in shock as he notices Selena standing beside the bed, giving him a terrifying stare, and maintaining that stare, she coldly asks Alicia why she is slacking off, informing her that the injured are being brought in one after another while she, who is supposed to be a healer, is here doing nothing. Startled, Alicia profusely apologizes, while Selena questions how she can be so insolent when she serves the gods, and without wasting a second, she leaves the room. As Alicia lets go of Zerog's neck, he starts coughing, relieved that he is saved, but he quickly realizes that the worst is yet to come as he tries to explain to Selena what was going on, only for her to interrupt him, saying that it is fine because she understands, which shocks Zerog. She explains that even with her power, she could not stop Alicia, who was fully resolved in her mission, and yet Zerog managed to stop her with ease, adding that she finds it remarkable that he went so far as to manipulate her, which confuses him. However, before he can explain that he was not trying to manipulate her at all, Selena leaves the room, and after a brief moment of silence, he realizes that there seems to be some kind of misunderstanding. However, he decides not to dwell on it, thinking that perhaps this is simply what he should do. In the game, characters were bound by a predetermined fate, and even the main characters met their doom, and in order to avoid such outcomes, he had once investigated various possibilities to see if he could somehow save them, but it had been impossible. However, things are different now, as this is no longer just a game. Determined to save everyone from meeting such fates and to avoid losing valuable talent, He decides to build the strongest army and makes it his mission. And for now, he plans to devote himself to work and increase profits to strengthen the company, which will in turn help him protect his people. With that goal in mind, he resolves to work relentlessly, embracing the path of a corporate slave, and thus he declares that he will use all his power to destroy the path leading to ruin. Meanwhile, in the mountains, it turns out that hero Rio and the sage Schubert have actually survived, though they are severely injured. As they camp in the mountains, Rio, while eating some meat, asks Schubert if he can use healing magic, and Schubert explains that he prioritized learning attack magic, so he can only manage low-level healing at best. Rio admits that he never expected to be injured this badly, which Schubert agrees is unfortunate, but Rio finds it degrading that he, the hero, is forced to camp outside just to recover his stamina. Setting that aside, since the dragon caused quite a commotion, Rio believes that it must have given Alicia a chance to use self-destruction magic. And with that, he becomes certain that Zerog's defeat must have been a success, asking for Schubert's opinion. After a brief pause, Schubert informs him that he has just received a message, and thrilled to hear this, Rio asks why he did not say it sooner, assuming it could be a report of their success. However, judging from Schubert's troubled expression, that does not seem to be the case, yet Rio still snatches it from him to read. It turns out that the letter is from Alicia, who reports that thanks to Zerog, she has escaped his control and will never return again, making this a farewell letter. And she adds that she never liked Rio's egotistical and selfish personality and in fact hated him. She further explains that she did not use any self-sacrificing magic and has instead become loyal to Zerog, to whom she now intends to dedicate both her body and soul. After finishing the letter, Rio remains silent as a cold wind passes through them, while Schubert waits for his inevitable outburst, and he does not have to wait long, as after that brief silence, Rio angrily rips the paper apart, demanding how Alicia dared to betray him and declaring that he will never forgive her. He rants that she was such a cute and obedient girl, yet she still did this, which enrages him further as he questions how she could act this way. And in his fury with his ugly ass face, he declares that he will kill both Alicia and Zerog. As he says this, a shockwave bursts from his body, his aura of fighting spirit surging outward and surprising Schubert, who finds Rio's ability to unleash such power through pure anger to be truly impressive, believing that with this display of the hero's true power they will surely surpass Zerog. After a brief pause, Rio, now smiling, decides to head to the fortress once more, but Schubert advises him to remain composed, stating that now is the time to restore his energy. Rio explains that he no longer cares about Alicia, but instead has something else he needs to confirm, which is the contract power of the holy sword Zegafin that grants him complete control over those bound by it, and therefore, it should not be possible for anyone to defy such power. Yet Alicia has clearly changed her mind, leading Rio to suspect that either the holy sword's power has been lost or significantly diminished. Thus, for now, their top priority becomes investigating why the contract is no longer functioning, and relieved to hear that Rio is not rushing into battle. Schubert praises him, calling him wise, and agrees that they should head to the fortress. Pleased that Schubert understands him, Rio decides that they should set out immediately. However, just then they hear the sound of something approaching, and as Rio turns around to ask what the noise is, a fast-approaching horse carriage suddenly crashes into them, sending both of them flying. The carriage does not even slow down, and as Rio and Schubert come crashing to the ground, a man inside the carriage casually asks if they ran over something, to which another person replies that it was probably just a boar. The next morning, Selena tells Zerog to open his mouth, holding a fork in her hand, while Alicia finds it unfair that Selena is getting ahead and accuses her of cheating, then tells Zerog to open his mouth as well, holding a spoon. Meanwhile, Zerog sits there with a straight face, wondering what kind of situation this is. Selena then explains that she has prepared an A-rank monster steak for him, and since she has improved her cooking skills, she asks if it looks delicious. Hearing this, Alicia protests that she has worked hard too, as she has made an exquisite stew using fresh vegetables kindly provided by the local farmers, and she believes that Zerog will surely enjoy it. Selena then smugly remarks that Zerog is a pure carnivore and that she would never let her lord eat commoners' vegetables. However, Alicia argues that it is not good for Zerog's health, while Selena counters that eating unpleasant food is not good for mental health. As Alicia insists that her food is not unpleasant, Zerog wonders if he is just imagining things, because as the two of them argue, he can clearly see sparks like lightning flashing between them. Thanks to his special training, they have both been able to improve their cooking skills rapidly. However, he does not expect their rivalry to become this intense, but since there is no downside to the food being delicious, he decides to allow it. Setting that aside, it is quite unexpected for him that Selena, who was so cautious of Alicia, has accepted her, as she initially considered Alicia to be very dangerous but seems to have been reassured when he told her that it was fine. This makes him believe that Selena must trust his judgment that much, which reminds him of his days as a corporate slave. when there were employees who believed him without a trace of doubt, to the point where he had to explain to them that regular working hours meant midnight. Recalling this, he is also reminded of how scary excessive trust can be, but he decides to leave it for now, as those who believe shall be put to work, which is the way of the corporate slave. Just as he is thinking that, Selena shoves a spoonful of meat into his cheeks, asking what he is so dazed about, and then Alicia also pushes a spoonful of stew toward him, urging him to devour it. Though this is how things are around him and he feels uneasy, he still finds it peaceful, which is mostly thanks to the hero's assault having been repelled and everything else proceeding smoothly. Not only that, after fixing up the castle, he restarts troop training and does not neglect strengthening himself either, all of which is made possible by Alicia's healing magic, as it allows the soldiers to train continuously, making that her primary focus. However, this also has its drawbacks, as this method completely occupies her with the task, yet Alicia handles it all without a single complaint, making her extremely capable as a corporate slave. Selena then admits that Zerog was right to trust her, and decides to adopt anything that proves useful to him without prejudice. And with that said, she slightly blushes as she calls him a truly wonderful person. Zerog quickly turns away, feeling her passionate gaze, but more importantly, he cannot relax just yet. As in the game, the villain general's downfall has numerous causes, not just the hero, and one of those reasons has already reached him the other day, as according to the report, a special officer is scheduled to conduct an inspection of the castle in a few days. In his past life as a corporate slave, he has faced similar situations, constantly dealing with complaints from superiors, and thus he wants to be in the best possible condition to welcome them. Although he believes it would be convenient if the officer turns out to be easy to please, regardless, he does not plan to let his guard down. Just as he is thinking that, the ground suddenly shakes with a loud noise, startling all of them, and since the shock is quite large, he quickly rushes outside, furiously asking if another dragon has attacked or something. However, when he gets outside, he is stunned by the scene before him. It turns out that the shock comes from a horse crashing into the castle wall, with half of its body stuck inside, and the sight is so absurd that for a moment he even wonders if the rear end of the horse is somehow growing out of the wall. But he quickly regains his composure and realizes that the horse's head has smashed into the fortress wall. Even with that understanding, he is still shocked, as the horse is far too large to be normal. Just then, a person steps out from the carriage tied to the horse and, grabbing it, remarks that it is still terrible at turning as usual. And after saying that, he casually pulls the horse out of the wall and lifts it high into the air. As he holds the horse up, he notices Zerog and instantly recognizes him, remarking that it has been a while. Zerog is deeply shocked, though not because a man is carrying a horse, but because he does not expect this man to arrive as the inspector. This man is the Imperial Supreme General known as Walter the Fiendish General, a guardian with a remarkably resilient body despite his old age, and in fact, the final obstacle standing in the player's way before defeating the final boss. Zerog quickly composes himself and greets Walter, saying that he is glad to see that he is doing well, but before he can even finish speaking, Walter slaps him on the back and complains that his voice is trembling, which brings shame to a soldier of the Empire. Zerog is once again reminded of how utterly fearless and cold-blooded Walter is, as even in scenes where he kills people, he laughs like a psychopath, and in his past life as a corporate slave, he had also been chewed out by superiors like Walter. However, he believes that Walter does not hold any particular feelings toward him, considering how he reacted when Zerog died, calling him pathetic for dying so easily. And because of this, along with his experiences with real-world superiors, he feels fear toward Walter rather than anger at the game. What frustrates him even more is that, unlike enemies, he cannot defeat allies, which makes Walter even more troublesome than the hero. Just then, Selena arrives at the scene and warmly welcomes Walter, saying that he must be tired from the journey, which makes him genuinely happy, as Selena is actually his granddaughter. Delighted to see how much she has grown, he eagerly moves to pick her up, but she quickly declines, and annoyed, Walter asks how she could refuse when she used to love being picked up by him, to which Selena calmly asks what he is talking about and tells him to compose himself in front of the soldiers. Zerog has completely forgotten that General Walter is Selena's grandfather, and he finds it even more frustrating considering that Walter is someone he should have been wary of, yet he overlooked it. But more than that, Walter's doting side toward Selena is quite unexpected to him. Since that is the case, he plans to take advantage of it and asks Selena to properly entertain Walter, believing that this will make the inspection much more lenient. However, with a smile, Selena tells him not to worry about such things and instead suggests that he simply show Walter what he is truly like. And upon hearing this, he asks if that will really work, as he is unsure and somewhat nervous, but Selena insists that he do it.